You hearing him okay?
I sure am. Oh. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Nope, wrong one. Start here.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Kinda. All right. Can you guys hear me now?
Definitely hear you.
All right, cool. All right, so we got our beef short rib here. We're gonna get that nice and seasoned up first. Oh, there we go.
This way, this way.
Yeah, so we just want to season that on all sides. This is probably what, about 2 pounds, I would say. Yeah, maybe 1.5 pounds. So it's a nice little size. Let's get this flipped, season this all up. Both sides. It's a good amount of salt on short ribs just because it's a thick cut of meat. So you want to make sure you season it really well. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna get our pan hot right now.
Did you season it?
What's that?
Your short rib?
No.
I think you did that.
All right.
Let me switch them up.
All right, I'm just gonna put like about 2 tablespoons of oil in there, just a nice little even coat on the bottom of the pan there. We're just gonna get that nice and hot first, so I can get a really good sear on that. So in essence, what we're doing, we're gonna get a nice sear on the short rib first, and then we're pretty much gonna make our own stock as we go. So we have some onions, celery, and carrots, which I'll show you in a minute that we're gonna chop up for that. And then we're gonna cook that in liquid for about 5 to 6 hours. So maybe like a 350-degree oven would be perfect for that. So, good. Just want to really make sure your pan's nice and hot so you can get a nice good sear on the meat. Have any of you ever cooked like short ribs or first time? Everyone?
We've done them in the past for sure, Jacob.
What was that? Yeah,
This is a first for me.
awesome.
Yep, first 2.
Yeah, so
But Jacob, you're
it's a great
demonstrating
dish.
as if you were doing this
in
from
many
scratch,
ways.
right?
It's good for cooking the day before, and it's also good for family meals because you can do a lot of it. And it's one of those things you almost set and forget, kind of like a crock pot, because you just let it go, but you're doing it in the oven instead. So it's kind of similar scenarios. All right, I'm starting to see a little bit of smoke in here. I'm gonna get that like fat side I want to put down first, so that gets that nice sear. And of course, you always want to, when you're putting something in a pan, you want to put the meat away from you so you don't splash oil up on you. Nice sear.
Jacob, you're demonstrating as if you're doing this from scratch, right?
Yes, this part is just showing you how we got to where, what you have.
Where we are now, okay.
Yeah, it's just because we didn't have 6 hours. But
We have nothing better to do.
right. You might be feeling real good on that rosé by the end of 6 hours. Yeah.
You want to talk about how you do it.
Yeah, so at a time, we do, it's usually 30 to 50 pounds at a time at any given time. So we're doing a huge hotel pan. It's a 6-inch deep hotel pan. So, and we're a small little restaurant, so we go through about a case, like 60 pounds probably a week, which is pretty,
Before COVID.
yeah, before COVID, but it's a popular dish. Like I said, it's one that kind of stays around. And then, of course, some of you guys saw the scallops, so you can intertwine that with this as well. kind of short rib and scallops, like the perfect surf and turf to go together. Excited. Probably seeing a lot of smoke in here. We don't have our hoods on, so you can hear us a little bit. So you might be seeing a little more smoke than normal. Go ahead and flip this guy so you can see that nice golden color there on there. That's what you're looking for. Other side. Maybe how to smoke out. No. I guess that's just start cutting up. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Pat's gonna go ahead and cut up. Okay. So Pat's just cutting up celery and carrots right now. So it's a nice little rough cut on those. They don't have to be fancy or anything because they're gonna be cooked down and braised, but just kind of evenly in size would be perfect for that. And then we also are going to have some rosemary and thyme, a few sprigs of that, and then just some whole garlic cloves that's going to go into that as well. And then we have a little bit of tomato product. It's just canned tomatoes that we use here, crushed tomatoes that just add that acidity flavor to it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the onions and carrots. We're just gonna plop those guys in there. Throw smoky in here. There's some garlic in here as well, cloves. Then what we're gonna do, get a little caramelization real quick on the onions. Then we're gonna deglaze this with a little bit of red wine. Just the cheap bottle of red wine is perfect for this. Brandia would be the best. Like something that's cheap. You don't want to spend a lot of money on the wine. It just can't cook down. Something that's maybe $2 or $3 a bottle. Just kind of infusing all that flavor into your vegetables so that it gets a nice little flavor from the short rib.
Well, that looks good.
Mhm.
And then what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and hit this with red wine. You just kind of want to stand back a little bit because there is oil, and water and oil kind of even, yeah, they're not friends. So just kind of step back. Just lay at the bottom of your pan. Keep yourself away from it. Get that all reduced in there. Got some little bit of rosemary, thyme that we're gonna plop in there as well. Just stir around, and you can smell the wine kind of infusing with the meat flavors, which is real nice. We got that.
That looks good.
And then what we got is, like I said, just crushed canned tomatoes. Perfect. You don't need to really use fresh for that because you'd rather eat a nice fresh tomato yourself, like raw for my purpose. And then also we got a little bit of water that we're going to add to this as well. So we're, in essence, this is like creating our stock. So if I'm sure you've heard of chicken stock, beef stock, fish stock. So this is kind of creating our own beef stock. Then what you will do, we'd bring this up to a simmer. And then what we got here is a little hotel pan that we like to use, and we place that in here. And then we just cover with a lid or foil and then cook for like 5 to 6 hours on that. What you're going to be looking for is like a nice fork tender when you're doing it, or you could do like a little butter knife in there and it should just slide right through the meat real easily. So But it, like I said,
Jacob, are you doing it on the stove top the whole time?
no,
Not
so
in the oven?
this, after this comes to a simmer, I'm gonna place into a hotel pan, and then we go into a 350-degree oven. And that's like from 5, I'd set a timer for 5 hours, check it. It probably could take 6 hours. So, but, and everyone's oven's different. That's the tricky thing in this world. So it's just like.
So you
using
might
a
get
gas
home by
stove.
midnight.
So- What was that now?
You might get home by midnight.
Right? I don't know. Your kitchen, Steve, looks like it might be like 5 hours the way that's set up. Got a nice kitchen.
You're only seeing part of it.
You hiding all the others.
You're not seeing the mess.
Hey, what you did? You're hiding it well.
Maybe I have a safe corner here.
Right. Does anyone
Yeah,
have any
that's
questions
favorite
about
rock.
this? Or it's pretty easy, self-explanatory, but do you, anything you're missing or that you need to go over with you at this point?
And Jacob, you started with a boneless short rib, right?
Yes, yep. Yeah, we used to use bone-in short ribs. The thing with bone-in, you lose a lot in weight. I mean, a lot of people say you get more flavor. It's kind of disputable to me. Sometimes I feel like you can get more flavor from it, but I don't know. I feel like this piece of meat, you want all the weight as possible because it shrinks down because you are going to lose probably like 10%, right? Yeah, maybe like 30%. It shrinks down pretty good. So once you put that bone in there, and the other thing with the bone, a lot of times it's tricky to keep them on there. If you overcook them slightly, the bone's going to fall off anyways. And I feel like the bone's more of a presentation piece. A lot of restaurants do that to make a statement. Like when we first opened, we did with the bone in, but the consistency of them was really tricky for us. So we kind of went to the boneless on that. So yeah, so you can see a nice little simmer here. And then that's what you're kind of looking for. And then we just are going to transfer right into the other pot.
How worried do you have to be about overcooking? Or is this kind of once you get to 4 or 5 hours?
It's a little hard to overcook, but you don't want to, like, sometimes it'll be like mush if you overcook. That's the big thing. So it's just going to like melt and shred too easily. So that's why you really want to check at that 5 hour point. That fork should just go in easily. The thing with, you could have like shredded short ribs, but at that point for plate presentation and stuff like that, we kind of slightly need to have ours a little like right there at that fork tender. That way when it holds together nicely. I guess the more thing is it just would fall apart for plate presentation purposes if you overcook it. So
Okay.
it would still be delicious, but it would just look not as nice on the plate. Cool. I'm just going to transfer this all into there. Let's slide that right over top. Gently try to pour away from you so you don't get a steam burn. Nice thing not to get. It's real smoky in here. It's funny right now. Then at this point, I would just cover it with some foil and then into the, like I said, the 350-degree oven for 5 hours and check it. And then you can use a fork or a knife, either or would be fine. But yeah, like you can smell all the aromatics, which is, it's amazing. Like that's I love braised meats because there's so many aromatics that come out. You can start to smell that garlic go in, and then the rosemary starting to infuse, and the onions. It just smells like heaven. It's good. All right, I think we're gonna pass you over to Chef Patrick. He's gonna go over the short rib dish making process. This is where we're getting you guys involved. Yep. All right, so I'm gonna move out of your way here. I'm gonna pull this out.
Okay, so now this is where our audience participation starts.
Yeah. Thanks, Martha.
All right, so on this dish, what we've done is after we've checked the short ribs, they've cooked for 5-6 hours, they're fork tender. What we do typically at the restaurant is we'll take them out and let them cool down, and then we put them in the refrigerator overnight. That way, when the meat will actually kind of firm back up. The idea of cooking it for a long time is there's a lot of fat that needs to render out, and there's a lot of like connective tissue, which is it's delicious, but it doesn't sound like a delicious thing. But what we're doing is that will break down. So what we're doing is we're creating gelatin, and that will actually thicken that stock. It's actually what thickens the bordelaise sauce as well. So what we're doing is we're breaking down fat, breaking down connective tissue, and we're rendering fat. And so that makes it super delicious. This is a technique that could be used with like pretty much any kind of meat. I mean, it's really not dissimilar from making a beef stew or like a pot roast. We just like the short ribs because there is a little bit more fat in there and it makes it like a little more rich in flavor. So what we've done is, like I said, we chill these overnight. And then also one other benefit to chilling them overnight is that any of the fat that has rendered out is going to rise to the surface of the liquid, and it's going to actually solidify. So you can actually just pull it right off the top of the pan and take that out because you're not going to want to do anything with it. I mean, you could like use it for, I mean, if you had a ridiculous amount, you could like clarify it and use it to like fry French fries, or, you know, it's just beef tallow. You could use it to, what else? Make a roux. Yeah, there's really not a ton of uses for it. It is flavored a little bit. It's got some of the aromatics in there, but we typically just throw it away. And it's nice because, you know, you don't want to put fats and greases down the drain. So once it's solidified, you can actually just pick it up in one big piece and chunk it right in the garbage can. So at this point, you'll want to take your short ribs that we've provided, and this is where you can either decide to shred them up with your hands or cut them into cubes. One thing is we're going to be using a nonstick pan. If you're going to use a nonstick pan, the cubes are nice because you can get a little bit of like color on the outside of them. If you don't have a nonstick pan, it's not that big of a deal. It's just that they will stick a little more, and so the shredded might be the way to go. So if everyone, I went ahead and I've got mine are already cubed up. So if you want to get to that spot, that would be good. And yeah, sure. So, and these are about like a 3/4 inch dice.
Are we supposed to be shredding right now?
Yes, now would be the time.
And I learned my lesson last time with my electric stove. I turned it on early.
Excellent, yes. Preheat, good.
Try to make a salad.
Also, in conjunction with dicing our short ribs or shredding them, now would be the time to get the pan going. We're gonna want to start over like medium, high, medium to medium.
Oh, your fan, not your fan. Oh. Not your fan.
Everyone at a comfortable level with shredded or cuban.
Hey, my hands are covered in meat, so I can't mute us. So I'm sorry if there's baby praying sounds in the background.
Hey, it's fun. It keeps it interesting.
So one thing is this recipe calls for demi-glace or bordelaise sauce. I didn't include a recipe for that. If you really want to make some, it's a very labor-intensive and time-consuming process. It's actually one of the very few things that we don't make in-house. Because like traditionally what you'll do is you'll start off with like 50 pounds of veal bones, which you have to buy and are not cheap. And then you would roast those for about 45 minutes, paint them with tomato paste, roast them for another half an hour or so. And then you'd have to cut up like a bunch of mirepoix, carrot, celery, onion, garlic, have to roast those. And you would have to take the bones out of the pan, put them in a stock pot. Then you would put the vegetables in there, roast those, deglaze those with red wine, throw it all in the stock pot, cook it down for like 6 to 8 hours. Like strain it out. It's a very, very labor intensive process. In this case, if you were using, like if you made the short ribs, you could use that liquid. It's not going to be quite as rich, but if you use that liquid and you reduce it down, season it with salt and pepper close to the end, because if you season it at the beginning and then you reduce it down, it'll be salty. But yeah, reduce that down, add some red wine to it, reduce it down again. And that'll give you a pretty close approximation. Is everybody at a point where their pans are getting hot and their short ribs are, they want to cook them?
Yes.
Excellent. And again, like if you wanted to, you could also not cut them into cubes. In this case, it works really well for us. But you could like take a little bit of that braising liquid and then just heat them in a pan. It would take a little bit longer. You can heat them all the way through. For service, we usually serve one large piece of short rib. And what we do for service is when an order comes in, we'll drop it back into a pot of hot, like the hot short rib shoe, and just heat that until it's all the way through. All the way through. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add our oil to the pan. You can tell that it's hot because it will start to ribbon. It'll look like it moves very fast in the pan. First thing I'm going to do is add our onions. Place those in. So the definition of saute is high heat, just a little bit of fat, and it actually translates in French to, I think, jumping. So you want to see like the oil kind of jump and the onions kind of, you can definitely tell that it's hot enough because we see a little motion in the pan. So we're just going to cook these until
Smells good.
first they'll get translucent. And then if we let them go for another minute or two, they'll start to get a little color on them. Really, really kind of your personal choice on how far you want to take them. We'll wait till we see a little bit of color and then we'll start adding the rest of the ingredients. And so one of the things like at the restaurant, I think we touched on this last time, is that we try to do as much of the preparation beforehand. So when the dish comes in, we literally tell the cooks what is on the ticket, and they fire it and they start getting it going. And ideally, like besides our fried chicken, which takes about 25 minutes, everything else we'd like to be able to get out within like 10 to 15 minutes. And that includes like as tickets start to pile up and the kitchen starts to get backed up, we still want those items to go out in about 15 minutes. So the more that we can do beforehand, the better. But we don't try to like take it too far. We don't want to like, be reheating full dishes because, we understand that people have dietary restrictions or allergies, and we want to be able to accommodate those. So what we'll do is we'll just have like a bunch of pans of prepped items ready to go. And as soon as the order comes in, they'll have like a certain set of steps that they'll go through, just like we're doing today. And hopefully we end up with the same dish every time.
So you should start to see a little caramelization on your onions. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not. Your guys can. You can see a little caramelization just slightly.
I'll make it better or worse. Pretty much the same. All right. So the next I'm going to add in the potatoes. So there's Potatoes, the ingredients we included today, we've got potatoes, we have baby turnips, carrots, and then celery root. And celery root's actually one of my favorites. I think it's very underutilized. It's really good roasted, and then it's also really good. If you cut it into cubes, you can boil it and mash it just like potatoes, and that turns out really nice. It's got like a much better flavor. I'm not a huge celery person, but it's got a much better flavor. It's a little more mild than just eating celery, and it's nice and creamy when you mash it. So I went ahead and added our potatoes. Oh, and all these vegetables, they're pretty much just roasted. So a little bit of oil.
Which ones are the potatoes?
Into a pan, or I'm sorry, into an oven on parchment paper, sheet tray for about at 350, about 15 to 25 minutes, 15 minutes usually if they're a little bit smaller like this.
Were the potatoes in with the onions?
Yep, you can put the potatoes in now.
I mean, when you packaged them with the onions?
Oh yeah, some of them were, the potatoes, some of them they were separate, and some of them the potatoes were in the same container as the onions.
I didn't know what ingredient I was adding.
Okay. The good thing is these are all cooked and we're just feeding them through basically, so it isn't really as important. I just wanted to kind of get like a little bit of just get a little bit, because the potatoes will crisp up a little more than everything else.
Yeah.
That's why I put them in first, but it's really okay. One of the things about cooking is that there's like really so many different ways to arrive at almost the same outcome. And it's one of those things where it becomes an issue where you want people to do things the same way every time, but sometimes like the food dictates that you do something different. Like if we were to say overcook the short ribs slightly, we'd have to be a little more careful with the preparation that goes into them. We'd have to take more care, maybe add them a little bit later in the dish. If you've got like some, vegetables that are like slightly overcooked or past ripe to begin with, you'd want to add them in later. There's just a lot of variation. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding the rest of the vegetables. This is the celery root. Got my turnips here. My turnips look a little bit different than yours because the ones that I roasted and gave you guys, I ran out of. So I took ones off of our station, our hotline. And my carrots are a little bit different shaped as well. So I don't know why someone decided to cut them on the bias.
It smells so good.
Kitchen is smelling very good right now.
Good. It's funny. So Jacob was saying we've got our hoods off right now because they're pretty loud. But we actually, when we first took over this space, we opened in basically the beginning of February, end of January, beginning of February. And by April, the Dispatch had put in a review out, which was pretty quick, but was amazing. I mean, it really helped business. The timing was good. We were starting to get a little bit busier. But in the review, the reviewer said that they went to a bar after they ate here, and their friends said they smelled like the best lamb dish they had ever had.
No.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And so as a result, we were actually already we figured out pretty quickly that the hoods here are not very strong. We ended up having to buy a new $1,200 fan that goes up on the roof that's supposed to help draw more air out.
Of course you did.
It kind of works. I don't know. It's better than it used to be. It's still not great.
Yeah.
So, all right. Get our vegetables going. They should be starting to get warmed through. In this case, now I'm going to go ahead and add our short ribs. And if the pan is too dry, you can add just a touch more of the oil. Another thing with this is if you don't want to add the oil, you don't have to. You could actually heat this up in a little bit of water. It probably won't taste as delicious, but that's just my opinion. But you could heat it up in a little bit of water or a little bit of the stock that you used to braise the short ribs. And then you could actually omit that oil. This is going to give us a little bit more flavor. It's going to help to get a little more browning on the outside of everything. I'm gonna go ahead and season with just a little bit of salt and pepper. It's good to season as you go. And then it's always good to check right before you're done plating, or when you're ready to plate, check it again one more time for seasoning.
Does everyone feel at a good place? Y'all okay?
I think you just need to focus. Maybe that's- maybe that's better. Is that better?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Everything in here is unbelievable. All the stainless steel is super reflective.
Yeah.
So I just can't figure my lights out right now. And the great thing about this is it's a very versatile dish. I mean, it could be really whatever you want it to be. If you have like, if you've gone to the farmer's market or the grocery store and they have like some really nice winter squash would be really nice in this. If you wanted to lighten it up in the summertime, you could do like, you could add like fresh tomatoes. You could add like some like summer squash, some corn would be really nice in this. Yeah, this is one of those things that really you can, whatever sounds good to you will end up nice in this dish. The short ribs are very good.
Yeah. Even some roasted beets would be good in there.
Ooh, yeah. Sounds good.
It's like amazing all the aromatics you can smell. I don't know if everyone can smell that. Like it just comes out of the meat and then the roasted vegetables. It's great.
This looks beautiful.
Aaron, did you get the this time? Sarah, I'm sorry, Sarah.
I haven't put the Bordelaise in yet. This is a huge meal.
There won't be leftovers.
There's a lot of food here.
Good. We want everyone to be
You know
full.
us, we share everything, so.
All right. All right. Once everyone's got some color on their vegetables and short ribs and they're heated through, we can go ahead and add that Bordelaise sauce. It's pretty thick, and you don't want to reduce it too terribly much. If you wanted to add more liquid to it, you could actually make this a pretty brothy dish. It could be like almost more like a stew. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in now. And I'll go ahead and cut the heat off as well. And really what this is doing is just glazing this, everything in the dish, making it super shiny and adding a whole lot of red wine and beef flavor to it.
It's good. It's good.
Tasted.
And if you notice that once you put the Bordelaise sauce in there, if you notice that it's starting to get like too thick, you can add a little bit of water and that'll thin that sauce down. If your pan was too hot and it starts to reduce too quickly. So I did not include them, but if you're a brunch person, this is a great brunch dish. And I thought, why not fry an egg and put it on top?
Martha just left the room. Oh, she's not gonna have eggs.
I feel super proud. I want to take my camera over so you can see what I made.
Absolutely.
Right. Here it is.
I know. I don't know what's doing this today.
That looks great.
Focus it out.
Somebody's adding an egg, right? Lamb.
Ooh, that looks good too, Steve.
There you go.
You got to rip this out of my computer.
So we ate all the eggs earlier today. Otherwise, I would fry one up
Yeah, I was
too.
gonna say Sunday's kind of the day everyone's doing. Well, some people do eggs for breakfast, so.
He's kind of based in, I don't know if you guys can see, he's based in the egg with the fat, just to cook it all through.
Just to keep it sunny side out.
Yeah, you always have those interior parts on an egg that kind of take a little longer to get hot, so he's just using hot oil and basting it over those areas that still need a little more.
I should eat it, like, you know. That's good.
And then you guys all taste the seasoning on yours, if it tastes good. Need more salt.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna flip over and we're gonna go to plate.
Oh, you mean I'm not supposed to eat it out of the pan?
Honey,
We gotta taste it to make sure it's seasoned well. I think everyone's looks like this, so it feels like everyone did a really good job.
One little trick that I like to use is if there's extra pan or extra sauce in the pan that's too thick to come out, I'll take one of the vegetables and use it kind of like to scrape the pan with. That way I'm not putting tongs against the nonstick surface.
It's good, Steve. Just a little bit of it.
Has everyone gotten their food out of the pan? Are we still cooking?
We are all good.
Oh.
If I could.
Turn your burner on.
oh my.
You see that?
Looks great.
I'd put an egg on it, but Martha would cry.
Little texture.
No egg, no shrimp.
Am I allowed to eat yet?
Yes.
Eat it while it's hot.
One of the biggest challenges is
Not so much in our kitchen because there's only 2 or 3 people ever back there cooking at the time, but some of the bigger kitchens you'll see where there's 6, 7, 8 people cooking all at once. Coordinating everything coming out at the same time is one of the biggest challenges that you can face as a chef. One of the craziest times I think was when we worked at Barcelona, we had half-price Tapas Tuesday, which I think they should do, and it like encouraged people to order like multiple courses, multiple plates per course, and trying to get people to produce like the same 7 or 8 things, but over and over again, like, very distinct combinations. It's definitely a challenge. It's one of the biggest parts where you have to have great communication in the kitchen. A lot of times someone will say that something is going to be ready in like 30 seconds, but that really means 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, that means they probably haven't started it yet. Even though you needed it, a minute ago. I guess if we ever get to do brunch, this could be one of our brunch items. We're making Jacob figure out technology, right? Everything now.
Is the Sean Miner good, friends? The Sean Miner.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I saw you
I'm
pouring.
saving my dinner for later, but the wine is a great
Yeah.
start.
That'll be good. Probably the charcuterie.
I know you mentioned this briefly, but can you talk again about how you got that egg looking so perfect?
Yeah.
Do it again, Daddy.
And years of practice. But yeah, there's when you crack the egg into the pan, there's like a little bit of the white that kind of spreads out really fast, and then a part of the white that stays like a little bit taller. And so after we let it cook for a minute or two, we'll just grab a spoon and kind of baste the taller part, and try to make sure that the yolk doesn't get cooked, but we're just kind of like spooning oil over it, and that'll help set that egg white.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and that's good. That yolk, when you bust up inside the short rib, it almost becomes like another sauce, and yeah, get that velvety texture. So good. Steve, how's yours tasting over there?
This is wonderful. Got me with my mouth full.
Right.
You can walk down the street and come and taste it if you'd like.
Yeah, come and see how I did.
That's right.
Right.
This is amazing. Now, where do you source your beef from?
So this we use through GFS is where we get this beef from.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the one dish that we used to source locally when we did the bone-in short ribs. And what Jacob was saying, we were having problems. Towards the end, it was like a real consistency problem. We were ordering 12-ounce portions. And then like once with the weight of the bone, and then once it cooked down, it was like probably a 7-ounce piece of meat, and it had the bone on it. It was nice. But like they started sending like really ridiculous pieces. There would be one that would be like 6 ounces, and then one that would be like 1.5 pounds. And we don't have a bone saw, so there's like really nothing we could do to fix that. It became a consistency problem. So we had used GFS's short ribs. So these are actually, there's a couple different kinds of short ribs. These are like the ones with the bones where it's a single bone. Those are usually called like English style. Then there's the kind that they cut for like Asian barbecue, the ones that have like the small cross cuts. You'll see like all 3 bones and the meat on top. The ones that we use are actually, they're from the chuck instead of the loin. So they're chuck flaps, and it's like the shoulder chuck area up here, and then the rib area below it they're connected. So you'll see like a lot of the same cuts that are kind of end to end. They just kind of arbitrarily picked a spot where they said, this is chuck, and then this is where the rib's going to start. So they come from the chuck end, the shoulder end, and it's a working muscle. So that's why it's got all of that connective tissue. That's why it's so tough. You would never like want to take short ribs unless you sliced them paper thin and did them like Asian style. You would never want to take like short ribs and try to cook it like medium rare. It just would be super, super tough. It's got a large grain on it. There is a lot of that connective tissue that runs throughout. So that's why braising is such a good, just a good technique to deal with these.
Right.
Yeah.
They can get real stringy if you would do that.
Well, these are perfect. You did a great job. My compliments to our chefs and a
It looks like
toast.
you guys are the chefs. We see you chefing it up over there, everyone.
Sure will toast you.
Come in here.
Martha's sitting there and enjoying, huh, Martha?
Still toast you. There we go.
Oh, there you are.
We're doing a Rhone blend wine from someone called Saxum, and it's from the James Berry Vineyard, and it's perfect with this beef dish.
Patrick loves wine.
He loves all alcohol because he's got a great collection of whiskeys and bourbons.
Yeah, that's his thing.
Yeah, I can't. I wish I could get into the wine more, or maybe not. Maybe I'm glad I'm not more into the wine. One dice is good enough.
Right. Yeah.
My wife drinks all the wine for both of us.
Oh, geez.
So Patrick, I told Forrest, Sarah's boyfriend, about your Shanks sour mash, and he's pretty jealous.
Okay. Yeah. It's
Next time they come to visit.
Next time that they come to visit, we're going to have to talk you into opening it.
right.
Right.
For sure.
This
We've
is so good.
Rob says the IPA goes very well, since you're talking alcohol.
What's that?
Yeah. Rob's drinking an IPA with us right now.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice. Whose IPA is it?
It's in a green can.
Ryan does truth.
Is it Rheingeist?
Yeah, it's Rheingeist.
It must be Rheingeist.
Oh, okay.
He says it's the Rheingeist truth.
Yep.
I didn't see what it was when he brought it home. I just saw that it was great. I'm not the IPA person.
Yeah, they are heavy. If you're not used to beer at all.
One or two of those is enough.
Right. It's scary because some people, when they first started coming out, they didn't realize how much alcohol was in them. And then we're like, oh, right. Everything's drinking up at night for sure. It's crazy. Oh, I don't think.
I've got to jump off, but wanted to say thank you again. I
Yeah, thank
love
you.
this and can't wait to make it. And I'm totally in for the next one.
All right, you gonna put an egg on it?
Yes.
Good, awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to try that trick. We'll
You
see.
should send us pictures if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Maybe to our Instagram.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, nice seeing
Thanks.
you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Enjoy your evening.
You too.
Do you have ideas for your next one?
We haven't really talked. Next one. We haven't really talked about it.
Yeah, we gotta figure out something. Yeah, we've been like so busy with like trying to get the patio going, and so it's been like we gotta get. Yeah, we've been lacking a little and like trying to stay up a little bit. Yeah. So, but we do have the wine dinner coming up on the 7th here
Yes.
at the house. So
We'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, then the wine.
And that's with Matt, right?
When will the patio be poured?
Don't ask.
Okay.
Apparently it's a sore point.
It is, yeah. So the guys that are doing it are Amish, and actually the phone number we have for him is not actually his phone. It's because he doesn't have a phone because he's Amish. So Jacob was trying to get a hold of him last week. They have a couple other big jobs going on, and now we're hoping beginning of next week.
They were really trying to squeeze us in between the big project, but the excavation part took a little longer than it was expected. So hopefully by the the end of next week or beginning of next week for sure. So within 2 weeks. Not
So- It's not going to turn into a garden. It's not getting that desperate.
Well, this is, unfortunately, since it's gravel out there, they've got stones poured in there. Our neighbors, apparently all these apartments around here are pet friendly, and it's turned into an area where people are taking their dogs out. So even though there's caution tape, keep finding surprises. But yeah, but hopefully, maybe at the beginning of next week, if it gets bored, it'll serve for a few days, and really by then we should hopefully be seeing our new tables and chairs. Fingers crossed. And Jacob's been out there painting yesterday and today.
Yeah, and our fence guy is on deck, so we're trying to balance, and then we have the electricians. That's a lot of moving parts. I never realized how much this for a patio goes into it.
We had to buy a new computer terminal for the servers, and then they're working with there.
Yeah, and then we got to get all the wiring out there for that. So, yeah, so it's become quite the expensive project, but it's going to be worth it in the long run, because especially everyone wants to be outside.
Yeah. And then when my kids drop things on the ground, if they eat, like I can't come into the restaurant because I have little people.
Right. Yeah. And it's going to be, I think it'll be nice too, because it'll be in between the two buildings, so it'll be more secluded once we have planners out there. Stuff like that. That'll be nice. Yeah. Fencing, so it'll be cool. We're excited about it, especially after the year we had.
Good luck with it.
Yeah, thank you. Alrighty, well, I think, do you guys have any questions or anything, or?
There you go.
How was those chocolate chip cookies? Did anyone eat one yet?
No, not yet.
One. Yeah, I have one. They're so good. I had to sneak one earlier to get me through the paint and outside.
Oh, you have to do that. That's good.
They're
All
good.
under control.
That's right.
Right.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great evening.
If you have any questions on anything, you can email us or send a message on Instagram or Facebook or see us in person.
We might actually see people in person again someday.
I know, right? So we both have our vaccine scheduled next Monday and Tuesday, first doses. So we're super excited about that.
Right.
Oh,
Jacob can't be over 40 yet, can he?
Well, thanks for participating again with us this time. This was a lot of fun.
goodbye.
Oh, yeah. Martha wants to say goodbye.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you disappeared.
Great job.
Delightful as always. We'll
Oh,
see you
thank
on
you.
Tuesday. We'll
Thank
see you Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you for all the
Yeah.
support, and we will see you. Woo! Alqueria week.
We're all Korea week, yes.
Right. We love it.
So I have enough leftovers that I'm having it for breakfast tomorrow with
With an
egg
egg
on
on
top.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Enjoy
See you
your
on
evening.
Tuesday.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.